Troublemaker, and today I'd like to speak about the campaign. So the campaign comes in 4 different scenarios. They're called Die Hard, Fortress Oslo, Zukov 2, and War in the North. Of course, you probably already know that. Each campaign advances in difficulty in the sense that the maps get longer or larger. That makes the games longer but not harder. The actual difficulty setting can be adjusted through a slider. So the game comes in 2 formats. The first would be a tactical overview, and the second would be a micro battle. In the tactical overview menu, you'll be given a map. It's important to study these features. Every single block on the map can be attacked from 2 different locations. Your goal will be to make sure to grab places and activate borders. The more choke point borders you can hold, the better. These choke point borders can only be held or attacked from 1 or 2 locations on each side of the border, meaning that you'll be facing the enemy head on. This also means that the computer can't flank around and take locations. A second thought on this tactical view. NATO will deploy from the left, or the Atlantic Ocean. Pact will deploy from the right, or the Baltic Sea. So when you are advancing, you are trying to undercut the Pact or the NATO from their position. But if you take points where they can deploy from, it means you must guard those points specifically. This means that guarding those points will be a last choice. But that's only half the battle. The other half of the battle is going to be the micro battles. Now, when you're in the overworld, you'll be deploying armies. You'll be gaining points based on how many territories you hold. These armies will be deployed and will have an absolute strength, which will diminish over time, in which they will die off. So in your micro battles, you'll have deployment points. At the beginning of every battle, you hold the deployment points you held in the previous round. If you hold the zone, you will have all the deployment points. If you do not hold the zone, you will gain 1. In every turn, every deployment point you hold at the end of each round, you'll gain at the next round. This can have a strategic value in that maybe you want to jump into a 1-point base last minute so you can strike the enemy very, very quickly next round. Or alternatively, maybe you'll want to grab some deployment points so that in the next round, you'll have a lot more money to use to make some of these big attacks. Either strategy does work. You will not be fighting with armies of your choice. They'll be pre-made, so you'll have to understand what you have. A mechanized army will be very, very vehicle heavy. Lots of nice, powerful tanks. Airborne will have lots of helicopters and aircraft. Maybe it'll be an infantry heavy deck, in which case you're playing very defensively. And you'll have to realize what decks you can push with and what decks you have to hold with. And your strategies will base around what you have. Just a quick guide, if you have a lot of infantry are very powerful defensively. If you have a lot of vehicles, very powerful defensively. If you have a lot of tanks, very powerful aggressively. Bombers can be used for aggression, for attrition, that is, gaining without losing. If you have a lot of artillery, you might want to sit back. Maybe you have a lot of helicopters, you'll want to play aggressively. And this is kind of how you'll have to start thinking about your own decks. You'll also have to start thinking about what your opponent has. For example, if your opponent has a lot of tanks, he probably has a mechanized deck. And in that case, he'll be playing very aggressively. As well, whatever units are destroyed each round are not available the next. So if you go into a battle and you completely demolish the computer's tank army, that means the computer will not have that tank army available next round. That means that you should probably not gain a lot of anti-tank weaponry, but instead go for anti-air or anti-infantry. I have 2 tricks for beating computers, and the first one is baiting. Basically, if a computer is very heavy on aircraft, they will bomb anything they see. So the goal is to figure out where they can see. Once you can figure that out, start staging anti-aircraft around that area, and throw 1-point vehicles out. And the computer will, without a doubt, send his bombers to try to kill that 1-point vehicle. And at that point, your AA will shoot him down. Very easy way to manipulate the computer there. Another way is if you border a computer's base. And you do it only diagonally. So, you know, there is a base technically in between you, but there's a diagonal there. If you place yours on the bottom corner, and his in the top corner, or vice versa, he will spawn a clump of units there, and you'll spawn all of your units there, and you'll be able to smash in his units very effectively. Make sure to bring a bomber, of course. If this is at all helpful, thank you very much for being here. You can subscribe to my channel. I always have great advice on the game. I also run matches, replays every week, and of course I have my own campaign playthrough. Like this video, love it, share it. Don't forget to come next week for another guide back to multiplayer.